Hi, Danny Flexon for Seconds Out, here with Shane McGuigan at McGuigan's Gym in London. Shane, I wanted to ask you about the forthcoming rematch between David Haye and Tony Bellew. You were, of course, David Haye's trainer for the first fight between them. He's now moved on. He's with Ismail Salas, amicable, I believe. Just like to ask you how you feel the second fight could differ from the first.
I feel like it can differ because I feel like Haye will box, David will box a lot more. If it was me in his corner, I'd tell him to box. Only because he went in guns blazing. He tried to knock him out. He hasn't been he hasn't landed a perfect shot in a long time. Might have done it in sparring, but in terms of on the big stage, he hasn't done it in a good few years. And although he boxed the likes of Demori and Jurjai, Bellew's he's a class operator. So I would get him to box a little bit more, sort of entice him and get him to throw. And I thought that's what he will do. From David's standpoint, I hope that he's prepared. I'm sure he is. He knows where he went wrong in that camp with myself, and we sat down afterwards. Although we parted amicably, we said this is the problems, and this is the way I want to do it. And we decided to part ways. So I know that he'll in this rematch. I know that he's going to go in fully prepared. So I'm going to say Dave's going to beat him, and he might even walk him onto a shot. But if he starts his shots first, Bellew's clever enough not to punch with him, and he'll just keep offsetting him. So it's it's going to be exciting. It's going to be entertaining. But I think David's. I mean, if you think about up until that point where his Achilles snapped, he was still 4-1 up or 3-2 up. And although Bellew said he was getting tired, he went another X amount of rounds with a snapped Achilles, and he was still able to continue. So yeah, I feel like that's going to be the outcome of that one.
We saw James DeGale say recently ahead of his rematch with Caleb Truex, which he won, although it was a tight fight again, that if he didn't look good, despite whether he won or not, he'd have to kind of look at himself again and where his career was going. Do you see that in the same way for David Haye in this fight, in that even if he emerges victorious and evens the score, if he doesn't look anything like the David Haye of old, does he need to assess his future?
I think he does, and I think he's sensible enough to know that himself. You've seen it in interviews. He's already said, if I lose to Tony Bellew, that's the end of the road for me. And sometimes stars make fights, and if Bellew's not going to engage, it might not be an entertaining fight. But if he fights someone a bit bigger that's going to come and have a go, he's still got that fight. He's still got that shot in him. It's just I don't know if he's able to get through the training camps anymore. So and I feel like that's the gym might be the case. Like, he needs to just make sure that he picks his fights correctly from here on in, and he can get through training camps and get battle ready.
And heavyweight has traditionally been labelled the glamour division in boxing. You've obviously had a taste of it now with David. Is it something that you're keen to kind of get back to because of everything that's associated with it, or are you really not fussed which division your fighters are in?
Not really. I mean, I just tried to make sure that they're not that any of my fighters aren't in the same weight division and not direct competition. Obviously, that's the case. But yeah, I feel like there's heavyweight divisions. I mean, I've had a few guys come to me, and I've chose to not work with quite a few. I feel like in the heavyweight division there's just a lot of hanger-oners. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people that are lingering there, and they want a piece of the pie, and that creates a divide between me and the fighter. If I've got to go through someone to speak to my fighter, it's just not the way it should be. That fighter and trainer relationship should be like close, and then you can have someone else involved, maybe a manager or maybe some, or a promoter involved, but they all have to be on the same page. And the problem with the heavyweight division is because there's extreme amounts of money on the line, especially with the likes of AJ and Tyson Fury, huge names out there. They just see that big golden carrot at the end of the thing, and they're just thinking, I've got to get control of this guy, I've got to get control of him, and then it becomes contaminated. So you just need to make sure that I need to make sure that if I am working with someone again, that I'm on the same wavelength with my fighter.
Shane, really appreciate your time. Thank you.